students. This would be now the part 3 of our discussion on module number 1 for the first week of second quarter. So this video will now focus on the quantum mechanical model and how is it different with the Niels Bohr model. The question is, can we really find the location of an electron in an atom? Malalaman ba talaga natin yung eksaktong lokasyon ng electron? So to answer that question, let's do this activity. This activity is again taken from the module that we are using from the previous year of Science 9 module. So we have here a atomic model, which basically the model of Niels Bohr model, wherein you have to put a dot inside the illustration using a ball pen while nakapikit. Habang nakapikit. So meaning to say, lagyan ko to ng tuldok habang nakapikit. 100 dots. Okay, so let's start. Parang hindi ko kayang pumikit. Okay. It's 8, 99, 100. Yan. Ganun pala yung feeling ng ginagawa ng mga estudyante kung ginagawa nila yung activity nito. And tada! So this is the result of my activity. So, lampas-lampas. So, ang binibilang lang namin ay yung mga tuldok na nasa loob ng bilog. So, mean to say, this is how likely to find an electron. So, from this activity, this is how impossible for us to find the exact location of an electron according to the model of quantum mechanical model as the latest atomic model. Bakit ba lumabas itong makabagong model natin na quantum mechanical model? So, the quantum mechanical model made by 3 young physicists, namely as Louis Victor de Broglie, Erwin Schrödinger, and Werner Karl Heisenberg. So, these 3 young physicists modified the idea of the atomic model from the discovery of Niels Bohr. The idea of Niels Bohr make use of a light, and light has a wave. Ginamit yung wave. So, naisip ni Louis Victor de Broglie na gamitin din yung wave. And according to him, electron is as a wave. Erwin Schrödinger, he developed a mathematical equation to be used in the model of quantum mechanical model. Werner Karl Heisenberg, according to him, electron cannot be found on an exact position or exact location. That's why Heisenberg made a principle called uncertainty principle. When we say uncertain, you are not sure, so the principle of uncertainty proves that electrons do not have its exact location. Certainty principle made by Heisenberg, he said that there is only a probability that an electron can be found around the nucleus. And this probability in this location where an electron could be found is called atomic orbital. So this atomic orbital is a volume of space. A volume of space, ibig sabihin, hindi eksaktong posisyon, kundi espasyo kung saan the electrons would be most likely to be found. Most likely, ibig sabihin, not sure, pero ito yung space kung saan pwede kong makita ang electron. Quantum mechanical model from the 3 young physicists emphasizes that the electrons do not really move. Instead, there are found around the nucleus. Makikita mo sila sa paligid ng nucleus where there is no exact position, but they call that location as atomic orbital. And this atomic orbital are the space where electrons would most likely to be found. The atomic orbital it views that the electron is a cloud of a negative charge. Mukha siyang cloud na punong-puno ng negative charges, not in an exact orbit, but instead an atomic orbital, which it looks like a cloud that consists of negative charge. So in short, we can never know the exact location of electrons, and electrons really do not move in a circular motion. Then, if not, how? In order for us to describe the electrons in an atom, mathematical equation made by Schrödinger make use of quantum numbers, and these quantum numbers gave us the idea in describing the electrons in an atom. In the quantum numbers, it corresponds to the orbital size, shape, and orientation. So let us now talk about the quantum numbers. So we have four quantum numbers. One is the principal quantum number. The second is the angular momentum quantum number. The third one is the magnetic quantum number. And the last one is the spin quantum number. The first three quantum numbers is specifying the particular orbital. And then the last quantum number is specifying the number of electrons in an orbit. Let's discuss about the first quantum number, which is the principal quantum number. So the principal quantum number is represented by letter N. So letter N is referring to the quantum number, which is the principal quantum number, which is also equivalent to the word shell. Baliktad yung H. Yeah. So the principal quantum number is referring to the number of shell or the energy level. Kagaya nung kay Neils Bohr na meron tayong energy level 1, energy level 2, 3, and so on. So in the quantum numbers, the principal quantum number is also referring to the number of shell, which is referring to the energy and the size. Because the nearest the nucleus, the lower the energy, the farther the nucleus has the higher energy. It is also looks like in Neils Bohr model that it has energy level 1, the energy level 2, the energy level 3, and so on. Hanggang sa kung anong energy level. So, meaning to say, the first quantum number is referring to the shell, and the shell is referring to the level of energy nung ating atom. Okay, so the second quantum number is called angular momentum quantum number, which is represented by a small letter L. It looks like a small letter L, pero medyo pakulot yung ating itsura ng L, pero mukha siyang L or 1, which is representing the second quantum number. And the second quantum number is referring to the shape of orbital. In the quantum numbers, on angular momentum quantum number, this L is referring to different shapes. Sa kada level, ibang shape. Second quantum number is referring to the subshell. So, kung yung ating first quantum number is referring to the shell, yung principal quantum number natin is referring to the shell, then the second quantum number, which is the angular momentum quantum number, which is represented by a small letter L na parang medyo pakulot, is referring to the subshell. So, ang tatandaan mo, yung shell, itong salitang shell, is represented by numbers 1, 2, and 3. While the word subshell, yung isang buong subshell, which is the second quantum number, is represented by letters. Yan. So, shell is represented by numbers 1, 2, 3, and then subshell, the second quantum number is referred to the letters. Anong letters? A, B, C, diba? No. So, the letters used in subshells are the letters S, P, S, P, D, and F. So, those are the subshells. Subshells S, P, D, and F. So, yun yung tinutukoy natin on the quantum number 2. Then, you take note of the legend. So, we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. So, we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. The angular momentum quantum number 0 is represented by the letter S. And of course, 1 is P, 2 is D, and 3 is the letter F. So, yan yung distribution natin ng letters when it comes to the second quantum number. So, we have L0 is the letter S, L1 is P, L2 is letter D, and L3 is F. Take note that we started with the number 0 to represent S, and then 1, P, 2, D, 3, F. Now, the subshell S is having a shape of a round. Yan. Yan yung shape natin for the S. And the meaning of the word S, the meaning of the letter S is sharp. So that is our L0, which is S. The shape is round. One round. Then, the L2, L1 is the subshell P, has a shape of hourglass. So, para siyang hourglass. Na parang infinity. So, this is the shape of the subshell P or the L1. Then, our L2 which is letter D, has a shape of clover. So, para siyang dahon ng clover na merong 4 na lobes. Yeah. So, that would be the shape of the orbital of the subshell. So, mukha naman siyang clover. We have 4 lobes. Dito, we only have 2 lobes, and this one has only 1 lobe. Then, for the last one, which is the subshell 3, yan, the subshell 3, which is letter F, the subshell F, we have 8 lobes. So, para siyang flower. Para may drawing natin ng tama ang ating F subshell, gumagawa muna tayo ng 3D box. Yan. So, sa loob ng 3D box, doon natin i-drawing yung ating 8 lobes. Thank you sa chemistry teacher ko sa SLSU. I have learned this drawing. So, gagawa ka muna ng tuldok sa gitna, and then yung lahat ng corner, lalamnan mo ng lobe. So, we have this corner 1, we have this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So, that is how we draw the 8 lobes of F subshell. Yan. So, medyo crowded na yung drawing. Medyo hindi na natin mamukhaan. But the point is, you have to make 8 lobes. 8 ganito. 8 lobe. Yan. So, bigyan ko na lang kayo ng picture. Yan. So, that is the shape of the orbitals for every subshell. You just take note that S has only 1 lobe, 2 lobes for the P, 4 lobes for D, and 8 lobes for the F. And we have S is for sharp, P is for principal, D is for diffuse, and F is for fundamental. Okay, so let us have this example. So example, I have N2 and L1. So how can we illustrate this kind of coding into quantum numbers? So ito yung quantum number natin, which has N2. Ano nga ang nire-represent ng N? Again, N is represent yan. So since we have N2, which is energy level 2, so you have to say we have 2, and then L1 is the subshell. Ano nga ulit letter ang i-represent ng 1? Anong letter? We have 0S, 1P, 2D, 3F. So since we have L1, then it is representing with the letter P. So meaning, on our example, we are referring to 2P. Energy level 2, subshell P. Saan galing yung P? Because of the given L1. Kasi sabi natin kanina, L0 is S, L1 is P, L2 is D, and L3 is F. So, dun galing yung sagot natin na P. So, if you have a question in your module such like this, so ang sagot ninyo is 2P. Energy level 2, and then subshell P. So, now let's move to the third quantum number, which is called magnetic quantum number. So, the magnetic quantum number is represented with a symbol of M with a subscript of L. So, we're referring to the magnetic quantum number, which is the third quantum number that is represented with the small letter M with a subscript of L. So, in the third quantum number, which is the magnetic quantum number represented by a small letter M with a subscript of letter L, it refers to the orientation in space of an orbital, and it divides the subshells. So, meaning to say, magfo-focus tayo sa pangatlong quantum number ay sa subshell. Ano nga ulit yung subshell? Subshells are the S, P, D, F, or the L equals 0, L is equals to 1, L is equals to 2, L is equals to 3. So, an example is, for example, you have given N2, ibig sabihin, shell number 2 or energy level number 2, and L is equals to 1. So, kung L is equals to 1, the subshell is letter P. Subshell P. Kasi 1. So, what if in this question, you are asked to find the M sub L? So, paano malalaman ang sagot if you are asked to find the M sub L or the magnetic quantum number using this quantum number? So, sabi, in the description, in the third quantum number, you are to focus on the subshell. it divides the subshell. So, dito ka lang titingin. Do not mind the n is equals to 2, or do not mind the shell or the energy level. You just focus on the subshell, which is L is equals to 1. To find the magnetic quantum number, dito ka titingin and find an integer. So, isip ka ng mga number na pwede under number 1. So, since integers, it consists of the positive and the negative. Ano bang numbers ang pasok sa 1 having positive and negative? So, you have here positive 1. You also have 0 sa gitna. Gitna ng 1 positive, gitna ng 1 negative. So, you also have 1 negative. So, meron ka dyang, I guess dito dapat ang positive. Dito ang negative. I guess the sign should be here and this one. Yan. So, the answer for the M sub L, or the magnetic quantum number M sub L, from the given subshell L is equals to 1. So, the integers inside this M is equals to 1 are the negative 1, 0, and positive 1. So, that is what referring to the M sub L. Ano-ano yung numbers na pasok dun sa subshell mo. Okay, for example, gawin nating L is equals to 2. So, madadagdagan ka ngayon ng numbers from negative 1, dagdagan mo ng negative 2. And dagdagan mo dito sa kabila ng positive 2. So, that is for the L is equals to 2, or the letter subshell D. Or, what if naman you have L is equals to 3, which is the subshell letter F. So, your integers, dagdagan mo lang ng negative 3. Dito naman sa kabila is positive 3. So, those are the representation of the M sub L, or the magnetic quantum numbers. You are dividing the subshell into individual orbitals that holds the electron. So, ang gagawin mo lang to find the value of your M sub L is to focus on the subshell. Tingin ka dun sa subshell, dun sa number ng subshell mo, and distribute the numbers into its integers of positive and negative. But don't forget, there should also always a 0 in between your numbers, negative and positive. For the fourth quantum number, or the spin quantum number, that refers to the direction of the electron spin, which is either up or down, with a value of negative 1/2 or positive 1/2 that is found inside one box containing up and down, and that would be emphasized in the discussion of the electron configuration once that we had discussed the electron configuration. Information that I have found on the module that you will answer. So, for example, that I have N 5. So, meaning to say, I have energy level 5 or N5, shell 5. Lahat ng pwedeng itawag on N. So, we have principal number 5. Then, the question is, how many values of L you can have? L, again, is the subshell. Diba? The subshells S, P, D, F, and so on. So, if you have a value of N5 for the shell, how many values of L will you have? So since we have value of 5, then ang magiging sagot dyan is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that would be your answer. Kumbaga, magbibigay ka ng values from 0 hanggang makarating ka dun sa number 5. Will I include number 5? Hindi na. It is because of the number 0 I counted. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So since counted yung number na 0, hindi mo na isasama yung number na 5 in your answer. So yung answer mo ay laging matatapos a number before the given energy level or shell. So, kung papalitan natin ito ng 6, gagawin nating energy level 6. So, your answer will be until 5. Kung gagawin naman natin 7, so magiging 6 and so on. Basta, your values would not be until the given number. Hanggang dun lang sa number before na ibinigay sa yung value ng energy level. Why? Because you have the number 0 sa unahan, which is already counted as value. Okay? Hearing the word quantum numbers really makes us think how hard it is. Mukhang ang hirap pakinggan, pinapakinggan mo pa lang, nakakalito na, tinitingnan mo pa lang sa module, parang ayaw mo nang basahin. But, this video that I have prepared is a very short explanation that I think na mas maiintindihan mo aside from reading itself from your module. But still, while you watch this video explaining the quantum mechanical model as well as the quantum numbers, ay at the same time, tingnan mo na rin yung module na meron ka with this topic para guided ka kung ano yung pinag-uusapan natin dito sa video. And this would be a great help for you to understand kasi this topic is quite confusing, medyo mahirap, and this video is really the main focus of the discussion for module number 1. Kaya dapat maintindihan mo mabuti the quantum numbers because majority of the questions in the module are quantum numbers. The first 2 videos that I had are just an introduction para handa ka sa ating pag-aaralan as well as to give you a history kung ano ba yung inaaral mo ngayon. Kasi aaralin natin ngayon si quantum mechanical model, aaralin natin ngayon si quantum numbers, pero hindi mo naman alam kung saan nanggaling ang quantum numbers. So, it's very good that you have the previous discussion on the atomic model para alam mo bakit ba umultaw itong si quantum numbers. At ano bang meron dito sa quantum mechanical model, bakit hindi na lang yung mga naunang model. The discussion of the quantum mechanical model of Schrödinger, Heisenberg, and de Broglie, I made it short para hindi kayo maumay, and I made it direct to the point where you can really easily understand the topic. So this ends my discussion about the quantum mechanical model, but the discussion for the module number 1 is still not yet done. On my next videos, stay tuned for the next video because in the next video, I will discuss there the electron configuration in continuation with the discussion of quantum numbers because the last quantum number is referring to the electron configuration using the boxes of arrows up and down. For the last video for module number 1 is about the discussion on electron configuration. Stay tuned and move to the next video explaining electron configuration. I hope you have learned a lot from this video on the quantum mechanical model and see you again on my next video.